My name is Diana Cooper, and I'm about to tell you how my parents' surprise appearance at my career-defining moment became the most liberating day of my life. They stormed into my product launch, demanding I sell my apartment to save my gambling brother from loan sharks. In front of 200 tech executives, investors, and media, they screamed that everything I owned was family money anyway. But what they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this confrontation for 2 years, armed with legal documents that would flip their entire narrative on its head. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This story changed how I view family, money, and the power of setting boundaries when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones you need protection from. Let me take you back to that morning. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton was everything I'd dreamed it would be. Crystal chandeliers cast perfect light on the 200 guests filling the room: venture capitalists, hospital executives, tech journalists, and my entire team who'd worked alongside me for 3 years to reach this moment. I stood at the podium, my hands steady despite the magnitude of what we were about to unveil. Behind me, our logo glowed on the massive screen: MedAI Diagnostics. 3 years of 18-hour days, countless iterations, and burning through my savings had led to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, feeling the room's energy shift toward me. Every year, 250,000 Americans die from medical diagnostic errors. Today, we're introducing technology that will cut that number by 70%. The demo was flawless. Our AI system analyzed complex medical scans in real time, catching details that even experienced radiologists might miss. When I showed the case study where our system detected early-stage pancreatic cancer that 3 specialists had overlooked, Dr. Harrison from Mount Sinai actually gasped. James Mitchell, CEO of Apex Ventures, leaned forward in his front row seat. His fund had been circling us for months, and today's presentation would determine whether we'd receive the $50 million in Series B funding we desperately needed. My CFO, Sarah, gave me a subtle thumbs up from the side. Everything was going perfectly. The Japanese delegation from Yamamoto Medical had stopped taking notes and were simply recording everything. The Bloomberg reporter was typing furiously on her laptop. In conclusion, I said, clicking to our final slide, MedAI Diagnostics isn't just another tech product. It's a promise that no family should lose someone to a preventable diagnostic error. The room erupted in applause. 3 years of sacrifice, of choosing ramen over real meals, of sleeping in the office, of rebuilding my life from scratch after my family had torn it down. It was all worth it for this moment. Mitchell stood up, clearly ready to approach the stage. This was it, the moment that would change everything. Then I heard the commotion at the main entrance. Security was trying to stop someone, multiple someones. Voices raised in anger, getting louder, getting closer. My blood turned to ice as I recognized the shrill tone cutting through the professional atmosphere. "Get out of my way! That's my daughter up there!" The security guards never stood a chance. My mother bulldozed through them like they were made of paper, her voice echoing off the ballroom's high ceiling. Behind her, my father shuffled in his familiar defeated way, and between them, God, of course, Marcus, my older brother, looking gaunt and desperate. "Diana Michelle Cooper!" My mother's voice cracked like a whip across the elegant space. 200 heads swiveled between us like they were watching a tennis match. The security guard reached for her arm. "Ma'am, this is a private event. Don't you dare touch me!" She slapped his hand away. "That's my daughter. I have every right to be here." My legs felt frozen to the stage. 5 years. 5 years of no contact, blocked numbers, returned letters. How did they even know about this? Marcus hung back near the door, his eyes darting around the room like he was calculating the combined net worth of everyone present. Even from 40 feet away, I could see his hands shaking. Withdrawal or fear, I couldn't tell. "Mrs. Cooper," James Mitchell said, standing up with practiced diplomatic calm. "Perhaps we could—" "Are you the one giving her money?" My mother whirled on him. "Then you need to hear this too. She's letting her brother die, her own flesh and blood." Phones appeared in hands like magic. The Bloomberg reporter's fingers flew across her keyboard. My carefully orchestrated launch was becoming a circus, and we hadn't even gotten to the main act yet. Sarah, my CFO, moved toward me, but I held up my hand. Running would make it worse. It always did with them. My father finally spoke, his voice carrying that familiar blend of exhaustion and enablement. "Diana, sweetheart, we just need 5 minutes, please." 5 minutes? My mother laughed bitterly. "We need more than 5 minutes to discuss how she's hoarding money while Marcus is in mortal danger." Dr. Harrison from Mount Sinai was already heading for the exit. The Yamamoto delegation exchanged concerned glances. $50 million in funding was walking out the door with every second this continued. I gripped the podium's edges, feeling the wood grain under my palms. The microphone was still on. Everyone could hear my measured breathing. "Security," I said quietly, but the mic carried it through the room. "Please don't remove them yet." My mother's eyes gleamed with triumph. She thought she'd won. She had no idea what was coming. My mother didn't waste a second of her perceived victory. She marched down the center aisle like she owned the place, her voice filling every corner of the ballroom. "Look at you," she spat, gesturing at my tailored suit, the stage, the entire setup. "Playing successful businesswoman while your family suffers. You ungrateful, selfish child." The words hit their mark. I saw several investors shift uncomfortably. A few of my employees looked at me with new eyes. Was their CEO really the kind of person who would abandon family? 27 years we raised you, my father added, his voice carrying that special tone of disappointed parent that he'd perfected over the years. Fed you, clothed you, kept a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us? Marcus finally found his courage, stepping forward but still keeping our parents between us like shields. "Diana, I'm in real trouble. These aren't just regular debts anymore. These people, they'll kill me." My mother's performance reached new heights. "Do you hear that? Kill him. Your brother will die. And you're standing there in your designer clothes, in this fancy hotel, surrounded by all this wealth you've accumulated by stepping on your family." The whispers started. I caught fragments. "Didn't know she had family issues. Seems cold. What kind of person?" Sarah stepped closer to me, whispering, "Diana, should I call building security?" I shook my head slightly. Let them dig their hole deeper. "We sacrificed everything for you children," my mother continued, now playing to the audience. "I worked double shifts. Your father took extra jobs. We gave you every opportunity, and you took it all and ran the moment you could make money." The lie was so smooth, so practiced. 5 years of no contact meant 5 years to perfect their victim narrative. The room was buying it. I saw sympathy shifting toward them, away from me. Mitchell cleared his throat. "Ms. Cooper, perhaps we should postpone?" "No," I said into the microphone, my voice steady. "Let them finish." My mother's eyes narrowed. She didn't like that I wasn't crumbling, wasn't rushing to apologize or explain. "Finish?" She laughed bitterly. "Oh, we're just getting started, Diana. These people deserve to know exactly what kind of person they're doing business with. Someone who would let family rot while she lives in a penthouse apartment that costs more than we've made in our entire lives." Marcus stepped forward slightly. "That apartment, Diana. You could save my life with it." The trap was set. They thought they had me cornered. My mother shifted into her favorite role, the martyred parent. She turned to face the audience, ensuring everyone could see her perfectly timed tears. "We gave this girl everything," she said, her voice breaking with practiced emotion. "When she wanted to go to Stanford, we said yes, even though it meant sacrificing our retirement. We supported her dreams, never asking for anything in return." The version of history she was selling was Oscar-worthy. No mention of the college fund that mysteriously vanished 2 weeks before my freshman year. No mention of the 18-year-old girl who had to scramble for emergency student loans. Nothing about the 3 jobs I worked while studying engineering. "And when she graduated," my father added, his voice heavy with false hurt, "she just left. Cut us off completely. No explanation, no gratitude, just abandoned the family that loved her." I watched the room's sympathy meter swing further in their direction. The Yamamoto delegation was whispering among themselves. 2 more investors headed for the exits. Marcus played his part perfectly. The broken son failed by his successful sister. "I made mistakes, sure. But Diana, we're family. I've been in therapy, getting help. I just need this one last chance to get clean, to start over. The people I owe, they're not patient anymore." "She has millions," my mother announced to the room, pulling a crumpled real estate listing from her purse. This penthouse of hers, $4.2 million. While we live in the same rundown house, while her brother faces death threats, she hoards wealth like a dragon. The Bloomberg reporter was typing so fast, I thought her laptop might catch fire. Tomorrow's headline was writing itself. Tech CEO abandons desperate family despite millions in assets. My team was looking at me with confusion, maybe even disappointment. They knew me as generous, someone who bought lunch for everyone, who gave bonuses even when we were struggling. This version my mother was painting didn't match, but I stayed silent, steady, watching. We're not asking for much, my mother continued, now fully in command of the room. Just family helping family. The same way we helped her when she needed it. The same way we sacrificed everything for her education, her future. She was rewriting history in real time, and the audience was buying every word. 5 years of no contact meant no one here knew the truth. No one except me. And the woman in the black suit who had just entered through the side door, carrying a leather briefcase. If you've ever been guilt-tripped by family over money, you know how Diana feels right now. The pressure to cave in front of everyone watching is immense. But what happens next will show you the power of preparation and boundaries. Before we continue, please hit that like button if you believe in standing up for yourself, and subscribe for more stories about justice and empowerment. Now, let's see how Diana handles this public ambush. My mother pulled out her phone, waving it like evidence in a courtroom. $500,000. That's what Marcus owes. These men sent photos of what they'll do to him if he doesn't pay by tomorrow night. Gasps rippled through the audience. The number was staggering, more than double what I'd expected them to demand. Sell the penthouse today, she commanded, pointing at me like I was a disobedient child. You can have the money transferred by morning. Save your brother's life. That apartment, my father said, his voice gaining strength, was bought with family money anyway. We supported you, invested in you. That success is built on our foundation. The lie was so bold I almost admired it. They were claiming ownership of something they'd never contributed a penny toward. Marcus stepped forward, finally brave enough to address me directly. Diana, please, they broke my arm last week. He held up his left arm, showing a cast I hadn't noticed before. Next time it won't be just a broken bone. You're sitting on $4 million in property, my mother announced to the room, ensuring everyone heard the number. While your brother faces death, what kind of monster does that make you? James Mitchell was watching me intently now, not with sympathy for my parents, but with the calculating look of someone reassessing their investment. This wasn't about family drama anymore. It was about how I handled crisis under extreme pressure. It's not just the apartment, my mother continued, gaining momentum. You have stocks, bonds, this company. You could save Marcus 10 times over and barely feel it. She turned to the audience, arms spread wide. This is who you're celebrating today. Someone who would let family die rather than share what we helped her build. The woman in the black suit had moved closer, now standing near the side of the stage. She caught my eye and nodded slightly. Almost imperceptibly, I nodded back. So what's it going to be, Diana? My mother's voice cracked with real emotion now. Not sadness, but rage at my continued silence. Will you save your brother, or will all these people witness you condemn him to death? The room held its breath, 200 people waiting for my response, cameras recording everything, the Bloomberg reporter's fingers hovering over her keyboard. I looked at my watch, 11:47 a.m. Perfect timing. You want the apartment? I said into the microphone, my voice calm as still water. The one you claim is built on family money? My mother's eyes gleamed with triumph. Finally, some sense. The damage was accelerating. Dr. Harrison from Mount Sinai was already at the door, shaking his head as he spoke into his phone. 3 more investors stood up, gathering their things with the practiced efficiency of people who knew a sinking ship when they saw one. Ms. Cooper, Mitchell said, his voice carrying across the room, we need to discuss this situation, privately. The subtext was clear. The $50 million in funding was evaporating with each passing second. My CFO, Sarah, looked pale, calculating what this meant for our runway, our employees, our future. The Yamamoto delegation's translator was speaking rapidly in Japanese, and I caught the word risk repeated several times. They were reassessing everything. If I couldn't manage family, how could I manage their investment? My lead engineer, Tom, who'd been with me since the beginning, wouldn't meet my eyes. The disappointment on his face was worse than any investor walking out. He'd believed in me, and now he was watching me get destroyed by my own blood. Perhaps we should reschedule the demonstration, someone suggested from the back. No demonstration needed, my mother said loudly. You've all seen enough. You've seen what kind of person Diana Cooper really is. The Bloomberg reporter raised her hand. Mrs. Cooper, can you confirm the amount your son owes? 500,000, my mother replied immediately, seizing the media attention. Due tomorrow, or they'll kill him. And she, pointing at me, has millions but won't lift a finger. More phones came out. This was going viral in real time. I could see Twitter notifications popping up on screens around the room. My professional reputation, built over 5 years of grinding work, was dissolving in minutes. Sarah stepped to the microphone beside me. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps we should take a brief recess. No recess, my mother shouted. Not until she agrees to save her brother. I touched my handbag, feeling the weight of the envelope inside. The woman in the black suit had positioned herself perfectly, close enough to the stage to be seen but not intrusive. She was scrolling through her phone, but I knew she was ready. Mitchell stood up fully now. Ms. Cooper, my firm needs to reconsider our position given these revelations about your character. The words hit exactly as intended. My mother smirked, thinking she'd won. Marcus looked hopeful for the first time. My father just looked tired, but relieved it was almost over. They thought they'd cornered me. They were wrong. Sell the apartment today, my mother demanded. Right now. No, I said simply. The word hung in the air like a slap. My mother's face went red. No? She stepped closer to the stage. Your brother will die. He won't die, I replied calmly. He'll face consequences for his choices. Consequences? My father's voice cracked. Diana, this is Marcus's life. The same Marcus who's been in debt before? I kept my voice level. 3 times? 5 times? How many times have you bailed him out? That's different, my mother started. With my college fund? The words dropped like a bomb. That's what you used, wasn't it? My $200,000 college fund? The room went silent. Even the typing stopped. My mother recovered quickly. We needed it for family emergencies. Gambling debts are emergencies? How dare you? I worked 3 jobs through Stanford, I continued, each word measured. 60 hours a week plus full-time engineering courses, while Marcus was in Vegas. You're twisting things. My mother's voice rose higher. We supported you. With what money? I asked. Name 1 tuition payment you made. Room and board, food, 18 years of raising you. That's called parenting, not an investment portfolio. Marcus stepped forward, desperation clear. Diana, please. This isn't about the past. It's always about the past with you. I cut him off. Every crisis is supposedly the last one. This time is different. Like when you stole my laptop senior year, or when you emptied my checking account. My mother was practically vibrating with rage. Family helps family. Family doesn't steal from family. We didn't steal anything. That money was ours to allocate. Money Grandma left specifically for my education? The revelation caused another stir. Several people who'd been heading for exits stopped. You have no proof of that, my mother said, but her voice wavered slightly. I reached into my handbag, fingers touching the envelope. Not yet. I have every bank record, I said instead. Every withdrawal. Every transfer to Marcus's bookies. You're lying. Am I? I looked directly at Marcus. Tell them about the Stanford scholarship I lost because I couldn't pay the deposit. Tell them why I couldn't pay it. Marcus looked at his shoes. His silence said everything. Mitchell had sat back down, watching intently. The entire room was reassessing again, but this time the momentum was shifting. Even if that's true, my mother said, grasping for control, you've made millions now. You can afford... I can afford whatever I choose to afford, and I choose not to enable addiction. My mother's tears came right on cue. She collapsed into the nearest chair, sobbing with the theatrical precision of someone who'd weaponized emotions for decades. How can you be so cruel, she wailed. Your own mother begging you, your own brother facing death. My father moved to comfort her, then did something I hadn't expected. He dropped to his knees. Right there, in front of 200 people, my 60-year-old father knelt on the Ritz-Carlton's marble floor. "Please, Diana," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm begging you, as your father, don't let our family be destroyed." The emotional manipulation was breathtaking. Phones swung between us like this was some kind of gladiator match. Several people in the audience looked horrified. At them or at me, I couldn't tell. Then Marcus played his final card. He walked forward, stopping just below the stage, and looked up at me with eyes that, for once, seemed genuinely clear. "Diana," he said quietly, the microphone barely catching his words, "will you really let your brother die? After everything we've been through together?" "Everything we've been through?" I repeated. "You mean everything you put me through?" "I was sick. Addiction is a disease. It's a disease you've refused treatment for, repeatedly. I'll go this time, I promise." Promise number 17 or 18. I've lost count. My mother's sobs grew louder. "She's heartless, completely heartless. We created a monster." The woman in the black suit had moved even closer, her phone now clearly recording. Good. I wanted everything documented. "Look at them, Diana," Marcus gestured to our parents. "You're destroying them. Is your money really worth more than your family?" I glanced at my watch. 11:52 a.m. 8 minutes until the scheduled time. "You want to talk about destruction?" I asked. "Let's talk about the night before my Stanford final exams, when you needed just 5,000 to save your life. Remember what happened when I said no?" Marcus's face went white. "You called the police," I continued, "told them I was suicidal, had me detained for 72 hours. I missed my finals." Gasps echoed through the room. My mother's crying stopped abruptly. That was concern for your well-being," she said weakly. "It was extortion. And it worked. I gave him the money when I got out." "Ancient history," my father said, struggling to his feet. "What matters is now." "What matters," I said, reaching into my handbag, "is the truth." I pulled out the envelope, thick with documents. "Mom, you want to talk about family money? Let's talk about family money." The woman in the black suit stepped forward with perfect timing, her heels clicking against the marble with authority. She whispered something to the security guard, who immediately stepped aside. His entire posture changed, from crowd control to deference. She walked down the same center aisle my parents had stormed through, but where they had chaos, she brought order. Every movement was deliberate, professional. The leather briefcase in her hand might as well have been Excalibur. "Excuse me," James Mitchell said, standing again. "And you are?" The woman didn't answer him. Instead, she walked directly to the stage, stopping just below where I stood. She gave me a single professional nod. I returned it. My mother's eyes tracked her movement, and I saw the first flicker of uncertainty. "Who is this? Diana, what are you doing?" The woman pulled out her phone, checking something, then looked at her watch. She typed a quick message, then positioned herself where everyone could see her clearly. The briefcase was placed carefully on a nearby table, locks facing the audience. "Is this some kind of stunt?" my mother demanded, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Marcus backed up slightly, instinctively moving closer to our parents. "Diana, who is that?" I didn't answer. Instead, I watched as the woman received a text, read it, and nodded to herself. She then did something that made my mother go completely rigid. She pulled out a legal pad and began writing notes, while obviously listening to our conversation. "This is ridiculous," my father said, but he was watching the woman nervously. "Diana, we're your family. We don't need strangers involved in our personal business." The woman looked up at that, making direct eye contact with my father. She didn't say anything, just held his gaze for a moment before returning to her notes. "I don't like this," my mother said, her voice dropping. "Robert, I don't like this at all." For the first time since they'd burst in, my parents looked unsettled. They'd come here expecting me to be alone, vulnerable, cornered by public pressure. The woman's presence changed the entire dynamic. Sarah, my CFO, leaned toward me. "Diana, should I—" "Wait," I said quietly. The woman clicked open her briefcase, the sound echoing in the now silent ballroom. She pulled out a folder, thick with documents, tabs marking different sections. My mother's face went pale. "What is that?" The woman spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the kind of authority that made everyone lean in. "Mrs. Cooper," she said calmly, "I believe you mentioned something about family money." "Let me tell you about family money," I said, my voice steady through the microphone. $200,000. Grandma Eleanor's education trust for me. Ring any bells, Mom? My mother's face flushed. That was family money to be used as we saw fit. The trust specifically stated, "For Diana's college education only." I have the documents. You were going to get loans anyway. Because you emptied the account 2 weeks before tuition was due. I pulled a paper from my envelope. August 15th, 2016. Full withdrawal. Care to tell everyone where it went? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He knew exactly where it went. Marcus had debts, my father said defensively. Dangerous people were threatening him. The same dangerous people who've threatened him every year since he was 21? This is different. You're right. This time it's 500,000 instead of 200. I pulled out another document. Want to know how I paid for Stanford after you stole my college fund? The room was dead silent now. Even the Bloomberg reporter had stopped typing, just listening. 3 jobs, I continued. Starbucks at 5 a.m., campus library until midnight, weekend coding projects, 60 hours of work plus full engineering course load. We didn't know you were struggling, my mother started. Because you blocked my calls when I asked for even $50 for textbooks. That's not true. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to screenshots I'd saved for 5 years. September 3rd, 2016. Can't help you, Diana. Marcus needs our support right now. October 15th. Stop being selfish. Family helps family. December 1st. If you can't manage money better, maybe college isn't for you. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But here's the interesting part, I said, looking directly at her. I kept every receipt, every loan document, every pay stub, every bank statement showing my payments. The woman in the black suit pulled out a thick folder from her briefcase, holding it up so everyone could see the label. Cooper Education Loan Documentation, 2016-2021. 200,000 in student loans, I continued, paid back in full, with interest, by me, alone. So, my mother said, but her voice was shaking now. You paid your loans. Good for you. Not my loans, I said, pulling the final document from my envelope. Yours. The woman in the black suit smiled slightly, opening her folder. You see, Mom, I did something interesting. I documented that the loans were to replace stolen trust funds. And guess what that makes them legally? My mother's face went white as a sheet. The tension in that room is unbearable. 200 tech executives are witnessing a family meltdown that could destroy Diana's career, but she's been preparing for this moment. If you've ever had to stand up to family manipulation, drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if this story resonates with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Now, let's see Diana's power move that changes everything. My mother's composure finally cracked completely. You ungrateful little bitch, she screamed, lunging toward the stage. She actually grabbed my ankle, trying to pull me down. After everything we did for you, you're nothing without us, nothing. The security guards started forward, but I held up my hand, stopping them. Let everyone see this. Let them see who my parents really were. You got rich because of the foundation we gave you, Marcus shouted, emboldened by our mother's rage. Every success you have is built on our sacrifice. Your sacrifice? I laughed. Actually laughed. Name one sacrifice, one specific thing you gave up for my education. Everything! My mother shrieked, still gripping my ankle. We gave up everything! Name one thing. The vacation home, my father suddenly said. We sold the cabin to pay for your expenses. I pulled out another document. The cabin you sold in 2015? The year before I started college? The one you sold to cover Marcus's Vegas debts? The Bloomberg reporter was recording everything now, her phone held high. You're twisting everything, my mother screamed, making us look like monsters. She turned to the audience, mascara streaming down her face. She's lying. We're good parents. We loved our children. We gave them everything. You gave Marcus everything, I corrected, including my future. He needed help. He needed consequences. Instead, you gave him my college fund, my laptop, my savings bonds from grandma, even my car. That car was a family vehicle. That I paid for, with my summer job money, which you also gave to Marcus. The room was recording everything, every phone, every camera, capturing the complete meltdown of my parents' carefully constructed victim narrative. You owe us! My mother screamed, finally releasing my ankle and standing up. You owe us for raising you, for feeding you, for keeping you alive. I owe you nothing. We'll sue you. We'll take everything. Try it. She actually raised her hand like she was going to slap me, even with the distance between us. The security guard stepped forward, but the woman in the black suit was faster. Mrs. Cooper, she said sharply, I would strongly advise against any physical contact. Who the hell are you? My mother spun on her. The woman smiled, a shark smile. Someone who's been documenting this entire interaction. Please continue threatening your daughter. The court will find it very interesting. Court, my father said, his face draining of color. What court? James Mitchell stood up and walked toward the stage with deliberate steps. The entire room tracked his movement. This was it, the moment that would determine everything. Ms. Cooper, he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. Is this your family? Before I could answer, my mother whirled on him. Yes, we're her family, and she owes us everything. That success you're investing in? Built on our backs, our sacrifice, our money. Mitchell looked at her, then at me. I see. She's selfish, my mother continued, sensing an opportunity. Greedy, heartless. Is that who you want to give millions to? Someone who would let her own brother die? Mrs. Cooper, Mitchell said calmly, what exactly do you believe your daughter owes you? Everything, the apartment, the stocks, this company, it's all family money. We invested in her. Invested? Mitchell repeated the word slowly. With what funds exactly? Her college fund, $200,000. The fund you took for your son's gambling debts? My mother's mouth snapped shut. Mitchell turned to me. Ms. Cooper, do you have documentation of this? I reached into my handbag, pulling out the envelope. My hands were steady as I handed it to him. Everything's here. He opened it, scanning the first few pages. His eyebrows rose slightly. This is... He paused, reading more carefully. This is a loan agreement, with your parents' signatures. What? My mother's voice cracked. We never signed anything. The woman in the black suit stepped forward. Mrs. Cooper, Mr. Cooper, perhaps you should look at these documents before making any further statements. She handed them copies from her briefcase. I watched my parents' faces change as they read. This isn't... We didn't... My father stammered. Page 3, I said calmly. Your signatures. Notarized. August 20th, 2016. 5 days after you emptied my college fund. You tricked us, my mother screamed. I asked you to sign a form acknowledging the withdrawal. You thought it was just bank paperwork. You didn't read it. The room was absolutely silent except for the sound of paper rustling as my parents frantically flipped through pages. Every penny you took is documented as a loan, I continued, with 10% interest, as you insisted was fair when I asked for help with textbooks. Mitchell was reading intently now, a small smile playing at his lips. This can't be legal, my mother said desperately. The woman in the black suit spoke up. I assure you, Mrs. Cooper, it's completely legal and enforceable. You're a lawyer? My father asked weakly. She smiled. Among other things. The woman in the black suit stepped to the center of the room, commanding everyone's attention. Allow me to introduce myself. Catherine Reynolds, former federal prosecutor, currently senior partner at Reynolds & Associates. The name hit like thunder. Reynolds & Associates was one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. My parents physically recoiled. Ms. Cooper hired me 2 years ago, Catherine continued, pulling documents from her briefcase, to properly document a rather interesting financial situation. She held up the first document. Exhibit A, loan agreement dated August 20th, 2016. Amount, $200,000. Signatories, Robert and Linda Cooper. We didn't know, my mother started. Exhibit B, Catherine continued, ignoring her. Bank statements showing Diana Cooper's payments from 2016 to 2021. $220,000, including the 10% interest her parents demanded. She pulled out another folder. Exhibit C, canceled checks, every single payment Diana made to repay the money her parents took from her education trust. The Bloomberg reporter was typing furiously again. Several investors had moved closer to see the documents. But that's not all, Catherine said, clearly enjoying herself. Exhibit D, the original trust document from Eleanor Cooper, Diana's grandmother, which specifically states the funds were for Diana's education only, and any other use would be considered theft. My mother's legs gave out. She collapsed into a chair. Exhibit E, Catherine continued relentlessly. Text messages and emails from Mr. and Mrs. Cooper acknowledging they took the money for Marcus's debts and demanding Diana not tell anyone. She turned to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Diana Cooper didn't abandon her family. She paid them back every penny they stole from her, with interest, while working 3 jobs through college. This is... My father's voice was barely a whisper. This can't be happening. Catherine pulled out one final document. Exhibit F, Certificate of Debt Satisfaction. As of January 15, 2021, Diana Cooper owes her parents exactly $0.00. She turned to my parents. However, there is the matter of the restraining order. Restraining order? Marcus said, speaking for the first time in minutes. Catherine smiled. The one that goes into effect the moment you make any further financial demands or threats. She pulled out a thick legal document, signed by Judge Harrison last week. All we need to do is file it. My mother looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Fear. You planned this, she whispered. You knew we were coming. I finally spoke. You announced it on Facebook, Mom. Going to Diana's big event to get what we're owed. The room erupted in whispers. Catherine held the documents high enough for everyone to see clearly. Let me read the key points for everyone here, since Mrs. Cooper wanted to discuss family money publicly. She cleared her throat. From the sworn affidavit, Diana Cooper took out student loans totaling $200,000 after her parents withdrew her entire education trust fund on August 15, 2016. Stop, my mother whispered, but Catherine continued. Said funds were used to pay gambling debts incurred by Marcus Cooper at the Bellagio, MGM Grand, and through various illegal bookmaking operations. Marcus's face went crimson. Several people in the audience gasped. Despite having no legal obligation, Diana Cooper chose to repay her parents the full amount, treating it as a loan to preserve family relations. Catherine looked directly at my parents. She paid you back money you stole from her, every penny, plus interest. Furthermore, she continued, reading from another page, bank records show that Mr. and Mrs. Cooper have received $43,000 from Diana over the past 5 years, listed as gifts on tax documents. Those were loans, my mother protested weakly. Without any documentation? The IRS will find that interesting. Catherine pulled out another sheet. Meanwhile, Diana Cooper has been paying taxes on the money she gave you, reducing her own income to help family members who publicly claim she abandoned them. James Mitchell stepped forward. May I see those documents? Catherine handed him copies. He read quickly, his expression shifting from skepticism to amazement. This is extraordinary, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Ms. Cooper not only succeeded despite family sabotage, but maintained such detailed records that she could prove everything. The Yamamoto delegation was discussing rapidly in Japanese. I caught words like integrity and remarkable. Catherine wasn't done. One final document. She pulled out a sealed envelope. Security footage from this hotel, dated today, showing Mr. and Mrs. Cooper attempting to bribe a staff member for Diana's room number. They've been planning this ambush for weeks. She turned to face the audience. Every accusation they've made today is not only false, but potentially criminal. Extortion, attempted fraud, harassment, all documented. We just wanted help, my father said weakly. No, Catherine corrected. You wanted money. There's a difference. She looked at my mother. You asked what kind of person Diana is. She's someone who paid back stolen money to maintain her integrity, who built a company that will save lives despite starting with nothing, who had the wisdom to document everything when dealing with people who would destroy her reputation for profit. The silence that followed was deafening. Catherine pulled the restraining order from her briefcase with the practiced motion of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. The official seal was visible even from a distance. This restraining order, she announced, was signed by Judge Harrison of the Superior Court on November 10th. It becomes effective the moment I file it, which I can do electronically right now. She held up her phone. One click, and Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, along with Marcus Cooper, will be legally required to stay 500 feet away from Diana at all times. No contact, no calls, no emails, no showing up at her work or home. You can't do this, my mother said, but all the fight had drained from her voice. I can, and I will, if you don't leave immediately. Catherine turned to the security guards. Gentlemen, please prepare to escort the Cooper family out. The guard stepped forward, no longer hesitant. The legal documentation had changed everything. Wait, my father said desperately. Diana, please, we're still your parents. No, I said firmly. Parents protect their children. They don't steal from them. Catherine looked at her phone. You have 5 minutes to leave voluntarily. After that, I file the order and you'll be removed by law enforcement. This is insane, Marcus finally exploded. Diana, I'm your brother. I'm in actual danger. Then go to the police, I said calmly. File bankruptcy. Enter rehab. Take responsibility for once in your life. They'll kill me. No, they'll take you to court. Maybe garnish wages if you ever get a job. But you'd rather steal from me than work. Catherine checked her watch. 4 minutes. My mother stood up shakily. You'll regret this, Diana. When you're old and alone, you'll regret pushing away your family. I'm not pushing you away. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. We're your blood. Blood doesn't give you the right to bleed me dry. The security guards moved closer. My parents looked around the room, searching for sympathy, but found only cameras and cold stares. 3 minutes, Catherine announced. Let's go, my father said quietly, taking my mother's arm. No, she tried to pull away. She owes us. That apartment is ours. Linda, stop. His voice was defeated. It's over. 2 minutes. Marcus looked at me one last time. You're really going to let me die? You're not going to die, Marcus. You're going to face consequences. For the first time in your life. 1 minute. They moved toward the door, my mother still protesting, my father pulling her along, Marcus trailing behind looking shell-shocked. At the doorway, Marcus suddenly turned back, his face twisted with something between rage and desperation. You want to know the truth, Diana? You want honesty? Security moved to stop him, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. I gambled your entire college fund in 1 weekend, he shouted. 1 weekend! Lost it all on poker because I knew Mom and Dad would cover it. The confession hung in the air like a bomb. My mother tried to pull him away, but he shook her off. And you know what? I'd do it again, because you always had another way. You're the smart one, the capable one. I'm just the screw-up who needs help. Marcus, stop, my father pleaded. No, she wants the truth? Here's truth. I took your laptop and sold it for cocaine. I used your social security number to open credit cards. I did it all, and they covered for me every single time. My mother's face had gone gray. This wasn't part of their script. And now you're rich and successful, and I'm still nothing. Marcus's voice cracked. But at least I'm not heartless like you. Heartless? I stood up fully, my voice carrying across the silent room. I worked 60 hours a week to pay for the education you stole. I ate ramen for 3 years to pay back money I didn't owe. I gave you $43,000 after you destroyed my future. That's not heartless, Marcus. That's enabling, and it stops today. Catherine stepped forward. 30 seconds or I file. My mother found her voice one last time. We're your family! No, I said firmly. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't destroy each other for money. You're just people I share DNA with. You'll be alone forever. I'd rather be alone than broke and betrayed. 15 seconds, Catherine announced, her finger hovering over her phone. My father finally took charge, physically pulling both my mother and Marcus toward the exit. We're leaving now. As they reached the door, Marcus turned back one more time. I hope your money keeps you warm at night. Warmer than your debt collectors, I replied. The door closed behind them with a decisive click. The silence that followed felt like the first clean breath after nearly drowning. Catherine looked at me. Should I file it anyway? Not yet, I said. But keep it ready. She nodded, tucking the documents back into her briefcase. They'll be back. Their type always comes back. I know, but next time I'll be ready. You were ready this time. Yes. Yes, I was. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then James Mitchell started clapping. It began slowly, deliberately, his applause echoing through the ballroom. Dr. Harrison joined in. Then the Yamamoto delegation. Within moments, all 200 people were on their feet, the standing ovation thunderous. I stood there, stunned, as people who'd been ready to walk out 5 minutes ago now showed their support. The Bloomberg reporter was wiping her eyes while still typing one-handed. Mitchell walked up to the stage, extending his hand. Miss Cooper, that was the most impressive display of integrity and preparation I've ever witnessed. I shook his hand, still processing what had just happened. 50 million? He said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Let's make it 75. Anyone who can handle that level of pressure while maintaining complete professionalism is exactly who we want to invest in. The Yamamoto delegation's translator approached. Mr. Yamamoto would like to express his deep respect. In Japanese culture, maintaining dignity while setting boundaries with family is considered the highest form of strength. My CFO, Sarah, was crying openly as she hugged me. Diana, I had no idea. No idea what you went through. Idea. Tom, my lead engineer, grabbed my hand. We knew you were tough, but this explains everything. The long hours, the drive, the attention to detail. You were always preparing for war. Not war, I corrected. Defense. Dr. Harrison from Mount Sinai approached. Ms. Cooper, I need to apologize. I was ready to leave, to judge you based on their performance. But what you've shown today, the documentation, the legal preparation, the calm under fire, this is exactly the kind of leadership healthcare technology needs. Catherine Reynolds was packing up her briefcase when several investors approached her, asking for business cards. She winked at me. Apparently, publicly destroying manipulative people was good for business. The Bloomberg reporter raised her hand. Ms. Cooper, can I ask, why did you pay them back? You had no legal obligation. I thought for a moment. Because I needed to own my success completely. Every dollar I have, I earned. They can't claim credit for any of it. But 43,000 after that? Guilt is expensive, but it's not infinite. Today was the final payment. Mitchell spoke up. For what it's worth, your company valuation just went up. Integrity like this is rare. Someone from the back shouted, Are you going to file the restraining order? Only if they come back, I said. They've been given a choice. Stay away and keep their freedom, or persist and face consequences. The room nodded collectively. They understood. This wasn't cruelty. It was justice. Within 6 hours, everything changed. The Bloomberg article went live at 3 p.m. with the headline, Tech CEO's Masterclass in Boundary Setting Goes Viral at Product Launch. By dinner, it had been shared over 1 million times. Mitchell's firm wired the $75 million that afternoon, $25 million more than we'd originally discussed. His email was simple. Integrity is the rarest commodity in Silicon Valley. We're not just investing in your technology, we're investing in your character. The Yamamoto delegation signed a partnership agreement worth another $30 million, specifically citing demonstrated crisis management and ethical leadership in their decision memo. Mr. Yamamoto himself called to say that in 40 years of business, he'd never seen such grace under family pressure. 3 more venture firms reached out before sunset. Our valuation, which had been hovering around $200 million that morning, hit $600 million by market close. But the real shock came from our customers. Hospital systems that had been hesitant suddenly wanted immediate demos. Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, they all called within hours. The CEO of Kaiser Permanente left a voicemail. Anyone who can handle that level of personal attack while maintaining professionalism can handle our implementation challenges. Sarah showed me the numbers, tears in her eyes again. Diana, we just secured enough funding to operate for 10 years without another investor meeting. The job offers poured in too. Google, Apple, Microsoft, all wanting to poach someone who'd demonstrated such spectacular leadership under fire. I declined them all. This was my company, built from nothing, owned completely. Catherine Reynolds called that evening. Diana, I've had 17 inquiries about representing other tech executives with family issues. You've started something. I just wanted them to leave me alone. No, you wanted justice. And you got it. Publicly. That matters. The security footage from the hotel had been leaked, probably by staff who'd witnessed everything. The video of my mother screaming while I calmly presented documents had become a masterclass shared in business schools by end of day. But the most meaningful response came from my team. Tom organized a dinner that night, just the core group who'd been there from the beginning. No speeches, no grand gestures, just a cake that said, "Boundaries are beautiful." "We always wondered why you worked so hard," Sarah said, "why you documented everything obsessively. Now we know. You were building a fortress." "Not a fortress," I corrected. "A foundation. One they couldn't shake." By midnight, MedEye Diagnostics was trending globally. We'd become the most valuable pre-IPO healthcare technology company in the country. All because I'd finally said no. 6 months later, I stood in the same Ritz-Carlton ballroom, this time for our IPO celebration. MedAI Diagnostics had just gone public at a $2 billion valuation. The same people who'd witnessed my family's meltdown were now toasting our success. The restraining order had never been filed. My parents and Marcus had vanished completely after that day. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. Sometimes silence is the loudest apology you'll ever get. I'd started therapy the week after the confrontation. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that setting boundaries wasn't cruelty, it was self-preservation. "You can't save someone who's using you as a life raft while drilling holes in the boat," she'd said. The money I'd been giving my family, that $43,000, I now donated to a scholarship fund for students whose families had drained their college savings. In 6 months, we'd helped 12 kids stay in school. James Mitchell approached me during the IPO party. "Any word from them?" "Nothing, and that's the gift." "Do you regret it?" "I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it." He nodded. "My brother still asks for money, but now I say no. You taught me that." The truth was, I'd learned something crucial that day. Boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They're bridges to self-respect. Every time you maintain them, you tell yourself and the world that you matter. Catherine Reynolds had become a friend. Over coffee, she'd told me, "You know what was brilliant? You didn't try to convince them. You just presented facts. You can't argue with documentation." The viral video had sparked a movement. #document. Everything became a rallying cry for people dealing with financial abuse from family. Support groups formed. Lawyers specializing in family financial abuse saw their practices triple. But the biggest change was in me. I slept better. The constant anxiety of waiting for the next crisis, the next emergency call, the next guilt trip. It was gone. I'd bought my peace with that confrontation. My apartment, that $4 million penthouse they'd demanded, had become my sanctuary. Not because of its value, but because it was bought with money I'd earned, free from any claims or guilt. Marcus had entered rehab, according to a cousin who'd reached out. My parents had downsized, sold their house, and moved to Florida. They were surviving. That wasn't my responsibility anymore. Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about what you refuse to sacrifice to achieve it. And I'd refused to sacrifice myself. Standing on that IPO stage, I thought about everyone watching who might be trapped in their own cycle of family financial abuse. So I decided to share one final truth. "Your success is not an apology for their failures," I said into the microphone. "You don't owe anyone compensation for being capable. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep anyone warm, not even family." The room was silent, listening. Family is supposed to be your foundation, not your financial burden. Love doesn't come with a price tag, and if it does, that's not love. That's a transaction. I thought about everyone who'd messaged me after the video went viral. Single mothers whose parents demanded their child support money. College students whose families treated them like ATMs. Successful professionals haunted by relatives who felt entitled to their achievements. Setting boundaries doesn't make you heartless. It makes you sustainable. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't build a future if someone keeps stealing your foundation. The truth is, I still love my parents. I love the parents they could have been, should have been, but I don't love what they became. Financial predators who saw their daughter's success as their retirement plan. Marcus might get clean. My parents might find peace. Maybe someday they'll understand that love and money are separate currencies. But that's their journey, not mine. My journey was learning that no is a complete sentence, that documentation is protection, that preparation beats panic every time, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destruction. To everyone struggling with similar situations, here's what I learned. Start documenting today. Every loan, every gift, every conversation about money. Not because you're planning for war, but because you're building evidence of your boundaries. Find your Catherine Reynolds, a legal advocate who understands family financial abuse. They exist, and they're worth every penny. Get therapy. The guilt is real, but it's not justified. You need professional help to deprogram years of manipulation. And remember, their emergency is not your responsibility. Their choices are not your consequences. Their failure is not your fault. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. And sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is protect yourself from people who share your DNA, but not your values. That day at my product launch, I didn't just reveal new technology. I revealed a new me. Someone who could stand firm in truth while my family performed their practiced lies. And that revelation was worth more than any IPO. Thank you for watching Diana's story. If you've ever struggled with family boundaries around money, you're not alone. Setting limits doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sustainable. Please subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself with grace and strength. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to protect their peace. And remember, love doesn't require you to light yourself on fire to keep others warm. What boundaries do you need to set? Let me know in the comments below.